Wear a different page, just something out of steady. Throw a stranger an unexpected smile with big intention. Still post it on your status, always on about the day it should have.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another modeler tutorial. My name is Guardian from Capital Gear Gaming, and we are going to be covering this is going to be a bit of an interesting video. I've got no idea how long it's going to be. My thought is it's going to be roughly, it could be a few hours long, but it will be cut into multiple sections. The first section is going to be covering necessary keys and just necessary things that you're going to have to learn in order to use LightWave. This video primarily is going to be for people who have a working knowledge of modeling programs, or they have a base knowledge of how games work and how programs like this work. So this is not meant for brand new people. I've already got videos up there that take it really nice and slow and easy. This one will be going pretty much as fast as I possibly can, without just making a horrible video out of it. The first section, I don't know how long the first section is going to be. It could end up being 40 minutes, it could end up being only 10 minutes. But it's going to cover all of the keys and all of these and all of this that you're going to have to, for the most part, know in order to use this program effectively. And then the next section, I've got this actually typed out, so it will cover rendering and setup, because there are actually proper ways to set up LightWave. You can't simply just dive in and have it all work out the way you want it to. There are proper things that you have to do to make it really work out well for you. And then the last of it will be for specifically advanced things, and we'll be getting into that as well. At any rate, the third section, I know for a fact, will be very long, mostly because it is advanced stuff. So if you're looking forward to the third section, I'll have you know it has nothing to do with controls or anything like that. It's all more like stuff that you can do. At any rate, let's get on to the first section, which is going to be dealing with the Create tab, Modify, Multiply, Detail, Construct, Map, and Setup, Selection, Layers, View, I&O, Utilities. Now you may have seen the first tutorial that I've done. It will be similar to this, but I'm going to be moving a lot faster. For the most part, I'm sure you guys can keep track of my movements, assuming that you are knowledgeable on how many of these programs do indeed work. Whoops, I accidentally pressed S. But at any rate, so let's get started on this. Whoops, sorry, keep on pressing buttons too quickly. So right now we are in polygon selection mode. Polygon selection mode allows us to select polygons. As you can see, a polygon is a 4-point, or actually it's a 3-point or more poly. In this case we have a 4-point poly. This also contains 4 edges. A polygon, of course, can contain more than that, but it cannot go anywhere below 3. Otherwise it will be considered a chain. We'll be getting into that on the advanced lessons. So right now we're going to be taking a look at how all this works. So right now if we press space, we will cycle through all of our selection modes. Selection modes are seen here under the Create tab, and in fact under every tab, because this is not part of a specific tab. This is a general tab, or a general menu, if you will. And you can select the different modes through here. You can also press space, and you can select the different modes by pressing space. In order to select things, you can click and drag over the individual things. Now when you click and drag, you are selecting. When you let go of the mouse, it switches to unselect, which means if I click this, I've let my finger off of the mouse, and if I click it again, it will deselect it. Now, if I were to say want to select this here, and then this here, well, there's a lot of options for doing that. For example, I would likely go like that and just use this view, and that would actually select both of them at the same time. But if I was insistent on using the perspective view, I will click here, hold down shift, hold down shift and then click here, and then I can do whatever I want. So that's how selection works. As you can see, that's click and drag, and this is also click and drag. If you click, basically it's a bit weird, it's hard to explain, but every time you let go of the mouse, it switches from selection to deselection. So if I go drag, let go of the mouse, I can no longer drag and select more. See, I've only got these sides selected, not this side, not this side. I can't select any more sides because I'm on deselection, which means I can only deselect sides. At any rate, we're going to move on. That's pretty basic stuff. That's just simply how to select things. We're going to go over some basic movements as well. Of course, all the rules apply to the other modes as well. That's edges. So those are edges, and of course it applies to points as well. If you're insistent, there are also marquee selecting. Marquee selecting is done by holding down the right mouse button and simply marqueing what you want to select. Easy enough. For the most part, I do not recommend using the perspective view as a way of selecting things. I recommend using the side views because it works a lot better with LightWave, and you'll have an easier time doing it. At any rate, let's continue on. For example, let's actually get into merge points. Merge points is done by using the M button. On many other programs, it's also known as merge vertex or vertex merging, or it varies, but it's in this case it's called merge points. So if we select 2 points and then press M and we go automatic, or no, my apologies, that's not what I want. Not merge points, I want weld. So in this case we have weld, which is this. What it does is it takes 2 points and forces them to weld together into 1 point. It's basically what merge points does, but the difference is that merge points will only work on points that are really close to each other. See how I brought these 2 points really close to each other? There's still 2 points there, but we can only really see one. And in that case, what I would do is I would use merge points automatic, and it would say 1 point has been eliminated, which means that now this has become a single point. Those 2 points have merged together. However, if I want to weld these together without bringing them together just so I can merge them, I can do welding instead of merging. So how this works is we're going to select one. So this is going to be the point that moves, and then we're going to select the other one and we're going to click on weld, and it will do that, and it will weld it to the other point. So the first one you click is the point that is going to move, so it'll move to its new location. Now if you want to weld them into the middle, it is weld average, and you can see the shortcut key is right there. So what that is Control Shift W, and does the same thing. So that goes under merging. A lot of this other stuff you really don't have to worry too much about. Same with edges here. A lot of this stuff I wouldn't be overly terrified about. You might need to know what flipping does. So this is flipping. This turns the polygon the other way around. This is done by pressing the F key. It's under detail, and flip is right here. it makes sense. F stands for flip, so basically it turns your polygon inside out. So it just turns it around. And because a polygon is a two-dimensional object, for example, a polygon like this, excuse me, I'm just going to create something right there, is a two-dimensional object, which means that it only has one side. Because, well, two-dimensional objects don't exist in real life, so that's why it seems a bit unusual, but that's how it works. So if we do it with that, that's good enough. Of course, we have our Create tab, and under Create tab we have Primitives. Primitives include the box, which I've been using lately, and it also contains balls, which for newcomers I don't recommend because it's a bit complex. We have discs as well, which is not too bad for newcomers, but again, I don't exactly recommend it. We have cone, of course, which is a pretty common one. Sure, let's use that. Whatever. I've created some sort of catastrophe. And of course we have capsule, which I highly recommend. Capsule is not the best thing in the world. I don't even quite know why it exists. Trioids, which are donuts, which are kind of nice sometimes, especially if you wish to create a spaceship. You can see it right there, it's been created. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff like gears, a lot of presets, wedges, bubbles, all sorts of little things. Some of these might be actually plugins, so you might not be able to see those. We can also do point sprays. These are interesting. So that sprays a bunch of points. This could be used for more advanced stuff. So one day we might get into that as well. Let's marquee select all that and just kill it. Make sure it's all clear. It looks pretty clear to me. Yeah. As for the UI controls, of course we've got our 4 menus. If you do not have 4 menus, you can press D for display. That'll bring up this, and you have a layout right here under the layout tab, and it gives you all the options for all the different types of setups. I generally work with quad when in Modeler, and this allows me to rotate the perspective view. This allows me to zoom in and out. It will zoom in and zoom out all of the views. I don't know if that option can be turned off, but I have never needed to turn it off. And then this will move. If you find yourself really off of the origin, which is always not good, you can press A and it will recenter the camera. It'll default it to everything, so everything will get defaulted. Now, if I create a box, for example, let's create one right there. The thing about this box is that it has a specific size right now, and the way to determine that is under here in the bottom left we have grid, and then it tells you how big the grid size is. Right now it's at 500 millimeters, which means that each one of these blocks is 500 millimeters across. So this is, you know, I don't know, that's like at least a good distance. I don't know. But if we are to zoom out, you will see that now we are at 2 meters. Oh, I brought that up, sorry. I didn't mean to do that. So now we're at 2 meters, which means each one of these squares is 2 meters across. And then if we bring it up further, now we're at 5 meters. And then further, we're at 10 meters, and it can go all the way up to 5 kilometers, 50 kilometers. I think that's 10 macrometers or something like that, or something ridiculous, or 500 kilometers. This is 500 kilometers. So if you create a box here, or a flat plane right here, this is officially well over 500 kilometers big, which means that when you go into animation, the camera will be puny compared to the size of this. And yeah. So sometimes you might want to keep that in mind, other times you don't. It doesn't. You can change settings and options so that it doesn't really matter, but it's nice to keep your mind set on that, just to make sure that you create things not perfectly to scale, but at least at a sensible scale. Anyway, you've already seen primitives. Text works like text. I do not recommend using the perspective view. If you click on text here and then go to the front view, you can type in whatever you want. You can do that, of course. That works. Ooh, I must have made an I as well. So, as for more selection-based stuff, let's go into how to do instant select. Now, there's two forms of this, if I remember correctly. Yeah, there's that one, and then there's geez, I don't even remember what the other one is. Whoop, that's the wrong button. But that's also the wrong button. Is it? I think it might have been that, actually. Yeah. Yeah, it is. So it is that. Anyway, so there's multiple ways of selecting things. We can do if we wanted to select all along the side except for the top and bottom. We can select two sides like this, and then under select we can do select loop, and that will select all of the sides except for the top and bottom, which is nice. This could be applied to any form of loop. We also have next loop. These shortcut keys are actually the arrow keys, so that's right, that's down, and that's up. And then you have rings as well. Anyways, another form of selection is we select a face, and then when you press right square bracket, which is located just under the backspace button and to the left of the backslash button. Pressing that will select the entire object automatically. Let's delete that real quick by obviously pressing the delete button. I hope I'm not going too slow or too fast, as a matter of fact, because it's quite easy to go too fast. We have our modified tools. A lot of these, pretty much every tool you could ever need is located throughout these menus. All you have to do is find it, look at the shortcut key, which is located to the right of it, and then simply learn what it is. So if we create a box like so, and then go to modify, we have the move tool, which can be applied in all perspectives. I highly recommend using perspective views instead of this perspective view. This is only for seeing what you're creating, not for adjusting it yourself. Let's center that and center the camera as well. Centering camera is the A button, and centering an object is the F2 button, which is nice to know. We also have drag, which applies to points and points only. So if you need to adjust a point really quick on the fly, this can be done using the drag button or drag key. This is also Control T, I believe. Yeah. While the move tool is simply T. We also have snap drag, which is I think Shift G, I think is what that is. Yeah. Which is just basically the snap function. You can't really see it here because the snap grid is very small, and we're at 1 meter, so our grid is pretty big. We also have tweak, which is a bit of an advanced function, so I will not I won't be teaching you guys how to do tweaking just yet, even though it's very cool. I really love tweaking, honestly. It's very fun. Even though I'm creating quite the monster already. Let's just ignore that I've done that. We also have magnet. Magnet is a pretty powerful function. It's sort of like a, it's like drag, but it applies to everything, and it works based off of what is closer. So if I mouse over this, which you can see now, if I mouse over that, I will effectively drag all of these points much harder than I will these points over here, as you can see. And if I drag over here, then these aren't nearly as affected. We have our rotate, which is also Y. We have bend, which a lot of these I don't exactly use very much. We have twist, again, I don't use that very much. All kinds of different types of rotate. You don't have to worry about those too much. stretch, which is H, which is rather important to know about because you'll be doing lots of that. Certain transform, I wouldn't worry about transform. Again, it's a bit of a important later on. It depends on what type of thing you end up doing. We have taper as well, which is slightly more interesting. Again, it's sort of like stretch, but it does it slightly differently. We have heat shrink, which we can't do from here. We have jitter, which will jitter all the points, so it randomizes the position of the points. That can be useful in certain situations. We have all these which you can play around with. I can guarantee you it's very unlikely to crash or have any issues because well, no, we can't use that actually because we don't have a morph. Smooth, don't use smooth. For heaven's sakes, don't use smooth. If you want to smooth your object, press tab, and that will smooth all the corners. This is also known as sub-patching. So that's what tab does, and just press it again to get out of it. Super easy. You know, multiply. We have bevel. So bevel does really interesting shit. As you can see, LightWave, when it comes to modeling, it does not break very easily. You can do a lot of stuff that would normally break a lot of programs. In this case, we don't have to worry about that. Watch, I can even bevel even more. I've got a ridiculous amount of polygons. I can do it once again. My computer has slowed down simply because it's got a shit ton of polygons that are all breaking. But LightWave itself has yet to crash on me, which is not surprising because LightWave is really just that good. As you can see, this is something pretty ridiculous. This is actually really cool. I would use this maybe as a star explosion. As you can see, even with that amount of polygons, it runs really well on my computer. So don't be afraid to try things out. You will not break LightWave. LightWave is very, very good at keeping itself well made. So let's create another box. Let's focus in on it. Oopsies, we seem to have a break there. Nope. Let's go one by one by one. There we go. And we'll just move that into the middle. It's a 1 by 1 by 1 meter. So under multiply, we've got things like extrude. A lot of these you can play around with. Bevel, most of you should know about. If you want to repeat commands like bevel, right click and you will be able to repeat them. Of course, I don't always recommend playing around with it too much because there's certain ways you can break it. Ooh. Trying to get some interesting shapes out of this. Oh, I kind of got one that worked. As you can see, I'm starting to break a few polygons. So if I remember correctly, the way bevel works is if I select a polygon and then click on bevel, if I drag it to the left, it will bring it in. If I drag up, it will bring it up. And if I drag it down, it will bring it down. And you can see that under these menus as well. You can do them in these menus, which is a lot easier. Whoops, I keep on doing that. Let's just bring this back up. And center you. Oh my. Let's center the whole object. Oh my, I seem to have multiple objects here. There we go, that should be the one that I want. There we go. Anyways, so if you want to do some more complex stuff when it comes to beveling, you can not select any of your faces and it will bevel all of them at once, which can, as a result, create some very complex things. But if you keep an eye on the, I'm like pointing at the screen, like that helps. If you keep an eye on the other views like these, you can work them out and get it working really well. Bring it in. I should have done this before because it'll work much better. There we go. I want to bring it in, and then I want to. Oh my. Now I want to bring it in more. Oh, I know why. I know why. It's because it's also beveling these as well. Yeah, you have to be careful of that. It's stupid me. I can't believe I didn't think of that. But at any rate, you could select each one of these and then bevel them as well. And you can add more detail like that, and then bevel them again, bring them back out, and then bevel them again, bring them up, bevel them again, bring them in, bevel them back out. You can make some interesting shapes, especially with bevel. And then you can smooth it and see how it looks. Looks a bit science fiction-y, a bit organic, maybe. Depends how you texture it, of course. Kind of nice. We also have rounder, which I wouldn't use. Chafer, which is okay, but I wouldn't exactly use it. Extrude, again, is a bit more advanced. If we use extrude and then press E, or no, I guess it won't let me do it that way. If we use extrude and then bring it out like that, it's sort of like bevel, but it's slightly different. Personally, I prefer using bevel. Bevel just works so much better because it usually doesn't have any issues with the polygons, like that right there. So if you get that issue, you just have to flip them. Lathe, we will not worry about. Smooth shift is more of a sub-patch thing, so if I'm doing this, as you can see, that's one of the disadvantages of using extrude, unfortunately. If we're using smooth shift, which is shift F, it's sort of designed for organic things like this, and it can do some interesting stuff. So it depends on how you want to, you know, design whatever creature or person, whatever it happens to be. There we go. That's kind of cool. Yeah. Magic bevel is sort of it's bevel, but you can actually do that, which is really cool. If you press N, you'll bring up numerics, and this lets you just a little bit more control over over what you want to do. You can play around with those settings, of course. I'm absolutely assuming that you guys are used to using programs like this, so it shouldn't be too much of an issue for you to figure things out. Nah, it's a bit too skinny. Anyways. You play around with those, of course. Mirror, it does exactly what mirror says it will do. It'll let you mirror multiple objects. Let's mirror it again, across there, like so. And you get multiple things like that. You can also just click that and it will mirror it automatically, which is a bit interesting. That's looking pretty cool, actually, if it didn't have these missing polygons because of freaking extrude. That's not too bad. We have array, which allows you to create multiples of different things. If it'll work, it might not. I might have actually crashed it. Sometimes some of the things that you do could crash it, but I wouldn't worry about it too much. Oh, I know why. I think it just created them without any space in between them. Oh no, it did. Okay, so that's what array does. Yeah, it'll take a little while for my computer to realize what's going on. So it creates multiple copies automatically. Pretty powerful. I wouldn't recommend using it too much because if you're going to create this many copies of something, you can actually use the instancer, which is a lot more powerful and will take out less on your computer. We have knife as well, which will allow you to make cuts into your objects. So if I bring my knife across this, well, for one, my computer is going to lag because of the amount of objects I got. But it lets me create an incision across that object. Now, because it's in sub-patch mode, it will deform until I cut all the way through through it. At any rate, I should probably kill all of these if I can. Yeah, really, when it sums down to it, all I can say is play around. A lot of these tools and settings are not hugely necessary. They're just little gimmicks that you can use to help you do certain things. So I would certainly recommend just playing with them. Certain things like lathe you can do in only certain circumstances. You need a spline line in order to do lathe, which is a bit more advanced. But for the most part, the only thing you really need is like boxes and balls, and you need the modify tools as well. Those are very important. Everything else is really just extras that I wouldn't worry about too much. Anyway, I think that about covers it. A lot of this you can figure out, just literally just experiment, and you'll get things working. For example, I'm going to destroy my computer a little bit. I am in the process of beveling this. There we go. So I've officially beveled that. Very cool. It looks like a disco ball. So yeah, I would just figure things out. The selection tab, I don't touch. Layers, I don't touch. Because layers are actually located in the top right here. It works like Photoshop. So that about covers that. So let's actually get into how to set up a LightWave file. Because there's a very specific way of setting one up. Now, many programs, I'm sure, like Blender and Maya, for instance, I know, has relative paths. Some of you may not know what relative paths are, but when I go to File, Load Object, it automatically knows where all of these objects are. It's under a thing I've called sewer animation, which I'm not finished. I probably will never finish it because it's a bit annoying. And you'll notice that my setup here is very organized, isn't it? I've got objects in a folder, I've got a scenes folder, and I've got a bunch of images in a folder, from which we can't see because we're on that, so if I bring up there. So we've got all sorts of decals and displacement maps and color maps and bump maps and other displacement maps and all sorts of different things, including just regular textures, whatnot. So I've got organization basically. So I'm going to show you guys how to actually set that up and make sure that your well, everything is organized. So I'm just going to create a little dummy folder. We can call this folder anything, it doesn't matter. I'm just going to call it tutorial. I'll be deleting it anyways. And inside the tutorial, we're going to create another folder, and it's going to be called objects will work just fine. And we'll create another one, and it will be called images. Now, the truth is, it doesn't have to be called images, it doesn't have to be called objects, and it doesn't have to be called scenes. It's just it's relative. So it doesn't matter what you call it, but as long as you set it up correctly, it shouldn't have any issues. So basically, once you've got that all set up, what you do is under File. Now, I'm not sure if I can actually do it from here. I don't think so. Edits. There it is. Set Content Directory. And now, if I go into the area and bring down here, there's tutorial. Now, if I put set content directory into this and then click OK, now when I click on load objects, it will go to tutorial objects. And when I go to save object as, it goes tutorial objects for me automatically. The benefit of doing this is that when I have tons and tons and tons of textures, I want to keep it all organized, and I want to keep it all inside one folder and then inside another folder, and I want to keep it all set up. That way there will be no missing textures. And LightWave, when I open up an object that has textures on it, will not have to look for those textures. It will automatically know where those textures are, which is great. Hold on, somebody's calling. Oh, no name, doesn't matter. All right, so that about covers up how to actually properly set up a good file setup, basically. There could be a few other things, of course. You have preferences that you can change. You can also save via incrementals, which is useful. You can also, I believe that when you I think there's a way to set it up so that it saves every few minutes or something like that, but I'm not too sure about how to do that. I would search that up. Google is your best friend, obviously. So if we close that down and then bring up layout, which is the animation side, of course, we can take a look at how to set up rendering. Under the render tab, obviously, we have render globals. Render globals is the setup tab for rendering. We have general, we have different type of ranges. I wouldn't worry about all that because that will set up automatically for you. But then we have render. We have render mode automatically set to realistic. We also have wireframe, quick shade, and then realistic. You can ray trace different things, including AAA. You can also ray trace on collision. You can choose to render lines or not render lines. You can choose to render instances or not to render instances. Reflection, refraction, reflection, shadows, and transparencies. These are generally options you want always on. If your scene has no shadows in it and it's not designed to have shadows in it, then just turn that off. It will probably render faster, and it'll just automatically disable all the shadows, which is really nice. It applies to reflection as well as refraction. Refraction is not something you can really see. Well, it is, but it isn't. It depends on whether you're going to have water or liquid, but this also applies to glass and mirrors in some cases. And so most of the time you could just leave all four of these on. It doesn't really matter. On collision is a setting that you have to enable later on. AA is also a setting you have to enable later on. So those two I wouldn't worry too much about. Render lines is another setting, and render instances is another setting. These two you have to actually use and enable for them to even be rendered in the first place. So you could just leave it default. Volumetric lights, leave that on, because volumetric lights, well, if you turn that off, then there's no point in volumetric lights. Shadow maps is your shadows as well. Lens flares, you know, a 3D package. 3D packages have really bad lens flares for some reason, so that's up to you. Noise reduction will reduce the noise of lights and of shadows, but that isn't exactly the proper way of doing it. It will slow down your render a ton. Two-sided area lights. This applies obviously to the only type of light, which is known as area light. Or, well, I don't want to say the only type of light, but it's applied to area lights. As you can see, with it enabled, we have two sides to this area light. I wouldn't worry about that too much though, because area lights are a bit complex and they're hard to set up. All this we can leave default because that's fine. If we do shading samples and light samples, that will change the AA of those two. We have luminosity or radiosity, as it's known. Monte Carlo is the most quality version of radiosity. Final gather is faster. Interpolated you want to keep on. That will stop blotchiness. Blur background you can turn off or on. It depends on whether you want your background to be constantly blurred or not. It can vary from animation to animation. Again, we have volumetric radiosity. In many cases you can turn that off because it won't be too important. Some cases you might want it on. If you turn it on, it will slow down your render a lot. Directional arrays are also available. Transparencies, which are important if you have transparent objects in your scene. On collision, this is ambient on collision, which is not really that important. I wouldn't really worry about that too much. Use gradients, again, I wouldn't worry too much about that. We have intensities, which you can change and play with. We have indirect bounces. Normally it's set to 1, which means there's no specific indirect bounces. If we increase that, we can change how many secondary bounces there are. When I say bounces, I'm talking about bounces of light itself, because global illumination is the calculation of light itself, which is why it's so powerful and why it's so slow. So for the most part, I recommend using Final Gather or Backdrop only. Backdrop only applies if you have a background, which we can take a look at under not any of these settings, unfortunately, but I used Final Gather or Backdrop only, not Monte Carlo until you are finished your scene, because Monte Carlo takes longer to render. At any rate, we have acoustics or caustics. This is a lot of water-based stuff, so you can play around with the settings, maybe watch a video designed specifically for these. You can cache them as well, which will store them into things like RAM memory, and it will keep it, it'll make you render a little bit faster. We can also cache the radiosity itself, which will allow it to render a little bit faster, but we'll ignore that for now. We have different types of cameras. If you're a photographer, you know all these different cameras. In all honesty, I have no idea what these cameras are. A real lens camera? What's that? A shift camera? I've got no idea. Surface baking camera? I don't know. I just use the perspective camera. It works. It's fine. We can play with the lens focal length as well. We have different quality settings. 1280 by 720 is a good one. It will render moderately quick and it will look nice. I do not recommend using 4K. If you use 4K, you will slow down a ridiculous amount. Why? Most likely because your monitor is not 4K. If you start rendering in 4K, you're screwed. If you're going to render in something ridiculous like 4K or 3K or even 1920 by 1080, which is still quite a bit, then you are going to need a pretty powerful computer. I'm just going to assume that you do have one. Samples are for anti-aliasing. Because LightWave has no limitations, well, I mean it does, but it doesn't, we can actually take anti-aliasing and crank it up to ridiculous amounts. By doing that, you are slowing down your computer. So don't do that too much. We have different type of filters. These can add certain amounts of blur and certain amounts of edge blurring. I usually use things like Mitchell Soft or Mitchell. Sometimes I use Gaussian. It varies. We have different soft filter. I wouldn't use that too much. It doesn't make a huge difference, but it can slow things down. All that. Motion effects are fun because you have motion blur, classic dither, and photoreal. We also have particle blurs, which are really a pain in the ass, but if you get them working, they can be pretty cool. We have stereoscopic rendering. I would not use that because that's for 3D stuff, so it's a bit useless, like 3D movie type of thing. We have depth of field, which is very common. In advanced tutorials, we'll be showing you how to use this actually, but it's very nice. We'll be using that sooner or later. You can change what type of light. A distant light is like a sun, which means it does not matter where this light is positioned. The only thing that matters is where it is pointed. So when you use this light, make sure you point it in the right direction. It doesn't matter where it's located here. We also have things like point lights, which are a single point of light, obviously. And a whole bunch of other stuff. SK Sky is a plugin that I've got, so you won't have that. We also have spherical, which is similar to point, but not quite. I believe it's got more of a fall off to it. Of course, you can play around with its shadows. You can turn shadows off for this light and this light alone. You can apply lens flares to it, which will appear in OpenGL, so you can see the lens flare in OpenGL. One thing that's really nice is if we take flare intensity, change it to 100, fade off screen, turn that off, or I mean, yeah, we want that on. Fade behind objects, we want that on. Fade with distance, nah, let's turn that off. If we turn off pretty much everything and turn on off that, we can put on anamorphic streaks. Anamorphic streaks are, as you guessed, nice blue streaks. This blue streak will change color based off of the color of the light itself. So if we change this to blue and then render it, it will, well, it should have changed color. I can't remember how to change its color. Somewhere under here. There are lens reflections, which are not very good. They're not exactly the best reflections in the world. I would use something like After Effects for that. So I'll keep that off because it's kind of shit, to be honest. Well, that's why I used ambient color. So if I change that back to white and then change the light color itself to blue, it should change the anamorphic lens color. As you see, it's changed it to more of a darker blue. If we change it to something like green, maybe, I think it goes a little bit more green. Oh, I just turned on volumetric lighting. Abort. Don't want volumetric lighting. That'll fuck everything up. And as you can see, it turned it a little bit more green, which is a really nice thing. So that's how you could create anamorphic streaks. It's really powerful and it's quick. Volumetric lighting is physical lighting. So if we turn that on and wait a few seconds because it's a little bit more intense, it's physical light, which means if an object passes through that, it will block the light. It's very powerful, but it can be hard to set up sometimes. At any rate, so that's been section 2, just on some basic rendering, doing some basic stuff like that. Of course, we also have under here, under Edit, we have the set content directory. Make sure you do that, that way the program can find your textures really quick and easy. And the third section I will save for later. We will be doing some actual rendering and we'll be doing some actual creating as well, just to create some stuff that looks cool. That's not going to be photorealistic. I'm not going to create a like a bathroom scene or anything that's like photorealistic and uber awesome and whatnot. Instead, I'll be creating something that's easy enough, quick enough, and will look cool. You know, just little things that are really nice. For example, I'm going to be showing you guys how to create sort of like a web connection type of thing, as well as a 2-point poly chains. We can create lightning using that, which is really nice. We also have gradient backdrops. So this is under here we have windows. You can look at all these. They're pretty self-explanatory, honestly. Backdrops options brings you to the backdrop. Backdrop is the background. We can give it a gradient background, which will mean that it will give us a gradient background. The default one is quite nice looking. We can even add environments. This includes texture environments. Oops, you have to right click and remove. As well as image worlds. Image world are HDR images, which I have none of, so I'm not going to bother. But actually, I think I do have a few. If it brings it up automatically, no, it doesn't, because I've set my thing already. We also have Sky Tracer 2, I think is the one I want. Yeah, and this one is really nice because it lets you just create stuff instantly. As you'll see, it takes a lot longer to render, but it's really nice. It's taking longer to render mostly because I've got my recorder running, which is not exactly recommended for doing something. There we go. Now it's starting to kick up. It'd normally be done by now, but that's recording software for you. At any rate, so Sky Tracer will create clouds and create good base environments, which I recommend. Let's just let it render out. You'll see the clouds. Very nice, actually. I've used it quite a lot, and I think I'll continue using it for as long as I can, really. It's quite attractive. Even though it really doesn't have, you know, like, that's not even high quality, that's actually low quality. If I bring it to atmosphere, see it's set to low on both haze and atmosphere, which is really nice, despite, yeah, it's a nice little atmosphere. It takes too long to render, though, if you bring it up to high quality, which is a shame. At any rate, so there's that. You can even give it a sun, which I've not tried yet. I want to try it, but I have yet to try it. And even a radius for the planet itself, which is interesting. At any rate, so you can play around with that, of course. Windows, you have presets as well. So if I bring up the volumetric options, like so, and then go to Windows, presets, we have different types of presets. For distant light is actually commonly used for flames, tractor beams. So if we enter flame, it will automatically adjust things for us. And then for render, the problem is it is a volumetric light, which means it will take much longer to render, but it's really not that bad, honestly. I kind of like it. Good presets, if you ask me. Plasma fire. If we say no, it will change all the settings. So if we change that back to white, I think we'll get some nice settings out of this. It'll look like plasma fire. Very cool. I like that. That's awesome. So I hope you guys have enjoyed the Let's Play so far. We'll be going into more advanced things later on, and as usual, I will be working on some 3D animation, and I'll be releasing maybe a few videos of my own so you can see what I do and, you know, how good my animation skills are. Mind you, they're not the best, no, but I still have fun making them, so why not, right? Under this looks interesting. I think this might actually be for sun shafts. If that's the case, I might have solved my issue, because I've always been trying to make sun shafts using this program. Interesting. Let's get a good view on that. So yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed the video so far. If you have any specific questions, please do ask in the comments. I'm more than happy to answer. At any rate, hope you guys please do tune in for more. Once you become more advanced and more used to LightWave, I'll be doing the advanced tutorial section, which will be covering a lot more interesting things. And just to show you guys, if I move the camera into this volumetric light, it will take much longer to render, even though it's a blank scene. If it'll even render, I don't know. We might not have enough time, because I'm already going on to 53 minutes now. See if it can render it fast enough. Oh, it's not too bad, actually. Yeah. It'll just be blinding light, unfortunately, but not too bad. It's got some texture to it, which is nice. Anyways, Pulse looks damn cool. Let's check out Pulse. It looks like you could use these for like space-based stuff, you know, explosions, flame. You've got tractor beams, of course. Some cool stuff. I like it. Hope you guys have enjoyed the videos. Please do tune in for more. And this is the Guardian signing out. Oh crap! I forgot I changed the record button.